Right. Good evening, everyone. So it's my great pleasure to warmly welcome all participants joining us today from different parts of the world to the session 8 of the James CSJ Research Methodology Lecture Series, organized by the Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice in collaboration with Blue Ocean Insights Private Limited. Today's session focuses on a crucial stage of the research journey, right? Writing the research paper. Conducting research is only meaningful when it is effectively communicated through a well-structured academic paper. As highlighted in today's session material, writing a research paper requires an integration of analytical thinking, methodological clarity, and strong academic writing skills to present findings in a coherent and impactful manner. Participants will be guided through the key components of a research title, including how to develop a strong introduction, clearly present methodology, logically interpret results, and write meaningful conclusions and recommendations. This session will also emphasize clarity, coherence, and academic integrity, enabling participants to transform their research ideas into publishable manuscripts. And it is my privilege to introduce our esteemed resource person, Mr. Tharindu D. Veerasinghe, Senior Lecturer who holds a BSc in Human Resource Management and MBA from University of Sri Jayewardenepura, and is currently reading his PhD at the University of Kelaniya. His academic expertise and experience in research and scholarly writing make him exceptionally well suited to guide this session. Let us warmly welcome Mr. Veerasinghe.
Good evening, right? So, shall I share the screen? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, very good evening to you all. And I hope there are people from different countries as well, not only from Sri Lanka, as organizers inform. Today in this session, during this 1 hour and 30 minutes, we'll get on to some of the important insights on how to write a research paper for a journal, because we are writing research papers for different purposes. For conferences, we can write papers, abstracts, structured abstracts, or research papers for conferences. And the next thing, we can write articles to even newspapers and magazines also. Magazines like Harvard Business Review, right? We can publish our research findings in magazines as well. But writing a research paper for a journal is completely different from writing an article for a newspaper or a magazine, or writing a research for a conference, or developing an extended abstract or an abstract. So that's why I very clearly emphasize it in the title, writing a research paper for a journal, from idea to publication. Right. Moving on, this is the objective part, session objectives. Understand research paper structure. It depends on actually. Normally, a journal provides a sample structure or sample article to follow, or manuscript structure. But we'll see. JMCSJ will publish in the website the sample structure, the sample article, something like that to follow under author guidelines. But understanding the common research paper structure is important. Then learn how to write each section, starting from the introduction or background up to references, statements and declarations, and up to reference list, in-text reference list, and then annexures. Identify common mistakes as well, right? Then again, some of the important publication tips when writing a research paper for a journal. These are the session objectives, right? What is a research paper? So there are some ideas. It is a structured academic document. The first thing is it is academic. Even though professionals write research papers, even though journalists write research papers, writing a research paper always follow an academic tone, academic structure. It's not about, say, like a consultancy report or a trainer report, something like that. It follows academic tone, so it is a structured academic document, not something ad hoc, not randomly developed. So there are certain standards that we follow when developing a research paper manuscript. The next point is it presents original research or reviews. Original research. That means collecting primary data, analyze and coming to conclusions and publish, or collect secondary data and analyze and coming to conclusions and publish. Original research or reviews. Reviews in the sense might be a book review or a systematic literature review or a narrative analysis or a case study, sometimes a short communication. But here, today in this session, I'll only focus on original research papers and systematic literature reviews, because under original research papers, as qualitative papers, we can put concept papers, conceptual papers, content analysis, right? All. The next point, what is a research paper? Published in a peer-reviewed journal, sometimes indexed, sometimes non-indexed. Index or non-indexed research papers, research journals. Now this JMCSJ will be a peer-reviewed journal. At the initial point, it will not be an indexed, but gradually, after first 3 issues, right, can index in different databases, including SLJOL, Sri Lanka Journals Online, then DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journals, and up to Scopus, Web of Science, and Emerging Social Science Citation Index, and so forth. So essentially, it should be a peer-reviewed one, index or non-index, whatever. Why it should be peer-reviewed? Because in a recruitment point or a promotion board, marks will be given for this type of an academic work when the journal is indexed, when the journal says it is peer-reviewed. Normally in Sri Lankan structure, 5 marks given for index paper, paper in an index journal, 3 marks for peer-reviewed journal, which is non-index. So research paper is something like that. Not published in a conference, I mean in a journal. Okay. Then why we want to publish? We can do the research and prepare the final report and do the viva and keep it in the cupboard or keep the soft copy with you in the computer. So why we have to publish? Because research is the process through which we generate new knowledge. Publication or publishing is the process through which we disseminate the knowledge. Knowledge production and knowledge dissemination. Through research, we produce new knowledge. Through publication or publishing, we disseminate that knowledge for decision makers and providing directions for future research and so forth. Why publish? To gain academic recognition? That is the first point. And for career advancement, as I said, it provides you marks, not only for academic recognition, but for career advancement as well. Then knowledge contribution. That is the point I explained you earlier. Knowledge production and knowledge dissemination. Through research, we produce knowledge, and through publication, we disseminate knowledge. Through research, we produce knowledge. Through publication, we disseminate knowledge. So knowledge contribution is a major point to justify why we have to publish. And also institutional ranking then. When you publish, your personal brand will be higher. If it is institution or affiliated to a particular institution, institutional ranking will be higher. Like for an example, for our university, webometrics ranking and uh, other indexes will be at a good point when we publish more and more in reputed journals, not predatory journals, but I mean good journals. Right. Now, directly when it comes to Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice, there are several types of journal papers that you can publish here. The first is empirical research papers. Then review papers. Review papers means systematic literature reviews we accept. Not just doing a review is not adequate now because methodologies are developed for systematic literature reviews, emphasizing on inclusion and exclusion criteria, data extraction methods, doing the analysis using some qualitative techniques and reporting standards, Prisma 2020 guidelines, right? You see, it's methodological. So just a review, just downloading 20 articles, reading and getting ideas and blending with your voice, writing just a review is not adequate today. We have to keep on writing systematic reviews, literature reviews. Then conceptual papers. Without the support of empirical data, we can develop a paper and come into a particular concept or a conceptual model, and then based on that can develop propositions or hypotheses and provide implications for future. Somebody else will use this conceptual framework or the concept and will be tested or will be testing with primary data and write another empirical paper. We can stop at that conceptual point. Or a case study. Case study means in research jargon, not just an incident. To say it is a case, it should be something unique. The first thing in the case study paper, we have to justify the uniqueness of this incident. Just reporting 2, 3 incidents and following the content analysis or narrative analysis technique in qualitative studies, writing something is not a case paper. Journals will reject such papers. When I am reviewing papers, today morning also I review a paper for a Scopus Index journal. Publisher is the SAGE, that is in SAGE database. So I rejected the paper, one paper, because the case is not unique. It is just an incident. Just reporting one incident or several incidents and then coming to an analysis is not a paper, not a study. It is like a newspaper reporting or news reporting for a paper or a blog or a website. To say it is a research, the case should be unique in several dimensions. When referring to the methodology, you will find what are the dimensions that we can use to justify the uniqueness of a case. Then some short communications. But I believe this Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice will not allow short communications to publish because the purpose of the journal is to publish empirical papers, review papers, conceptual papers, and case study papers, case studies, basically. Right. So this is the paper structure. The title first, then the abstract. But there are some journals, executive summary is a must. Executive summary is a must for some journals. Some journals say or ask the author, ask the researcher to include the executive summary in the main manuscript itself or under the cover letter or in a separate document or at the end of the title page after the author bibliography, something like that. It depends on. Anyway, there are journals ask the author to submit executive summary with an abstract. Abstract is very powerful. Basically, say 150 words to 200 words or 250 words maximum. It's a powerful write-up about the whole thing, whole study, but executive summary is something extended We can write up to 500, 600 words in an executive summary. It's something, say, a detailed description than the abstract, right? Then keywords. Normally we use keywords to easily find the manuscript, like search terms in databases. We enter keywords. Keywords should reflect the title and the whole work, the entire research. We arrange keywords in an alphabetical order according to ABCD order. Then the introduction, literature review. Under introduction, we have to emphasize objectives and significance of the study as well. Then methods and materials, that means the methodology, under which we have to emphasize on the research design. Then sampling technique. Then data collection instruments, about standard measurement scales, questionnaire, interview guides, observation notes, field diaries, ethnography technique, several things, depending on the nature of the study, right? Then data analysis techniques, ethical concerns, right? Then results, discussion. Results and discussions are two different sections. Under results, we directly report the findings of the analysis. Discussion, we blend our voice and also we blend evidence from the literature as well. Then conclusion with implications, limitations, and directions for future studies as well. The conclusion is not just a repetition of the findings. Many people write the conclusion in general voice, just repeating the findings. But remember, conclusion is the voice of the author, voice of the researcher. When reviewing a journal paper, reviewers normally check whether the conclusions is specific. It doesn't follow the general tone. It should be specific, findings based, and strong voice of the researcher. It is the conclusion of the researcher, depending on the findings and results. Then references. Now, this Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice will follow APA referencing style, which is Harvard style. Then declarations if required. Then statements, declarations and statements, right? Under which we have to say a conflict of interest, data availability statement, funding, any agency or any party, any commercial body fund the research and such acknowledgements, right? For me, when I publish a research article in an index journal, the University of California normally provides APC. What is APC? Article processing charges. So I have to acknowledge that under funding statement, University of California or say the article processing charge is provided by the Research Council of the University of California, Sri Lanka. Something like that. I have to put a declaration or a statement. Then annexures, if any. Under annexures, if it is a qualitative study, coding book as a table, or if it is an instrument development, factor loading values, or some tables, some output tables from statistical package, or the questionnaire, items used in the study. Items means statements or questions anchored on a Likert scale. We have to annex. Ethical clearance letters, we have to annex. So we'll go one by one, right? First thing is writing the title. So I'll switch off the video to ensure the signal strength of my connection, right? So we'll switch off the video, but you can hear me, right? Writing the title is important. It should be very precise, clear, and also impressive, right? Title should reflect the entire study. Title should reflect the entire study, right? Clear and conscious. And say, For an example, impact of, today I initiated one paper and applied for ethical clearance from the ERC of the university. ERC means Ethics Review Committee. Before starting primary data collection from my sample, the title was impact of. We never say the impact. It's wrong actually. Never say the in the title. Impact of AI surveillance and psychological safety on employee voice behavior. Evidence from IT professionals of Sri Lanka. And I separate these two using a colon, right? Or we can say another article I initiated last week was that was a systematic literature review. When algorithms meet empathy, question mark, systematic literature review of blah, blah, blah. It's very clear. Keywords and the main focus of the study is illustrated in the title, right? It's not like for a thesis, for a master or a PhD or MPhil or DBA, publication type article should have or should has a very clear and conscious, impressive title. It should reflect key variables. Try to avoid unnecessary jargon. Jargon means technical terms, and avoid abbreviations as much as possible in the title. Avoid abbreviations in as much as possible. But there are some issues avoiding abbreviations, say IT, rather than saying information technology. It's impressive to say IT in the title. That's okay, right? But as much as possible, try to avoid jargon and should be impressive, as I said. When you finalize the title, not at the beginning of the study, basically, better to finalize the title at the end, after writing the abstract. After writing the abstract also, we can cut and polish the title. We can cut and polish the title, even after writing the abstract, right? At the beginning, we can have a tentatively finalized abstract. It's not the final version, but just a tentative abstract. But after finalizing the abstract, can finalize the title. Okay. Then the important element is abstract. Very powerful abstract. There are some journals, first they requested only the abstract and review it. Then invite to submit the full paper. If the chief editor reject the abstract at the editorial desk, the author will not get the opportunity to submit the full paper, right? So abstract should be very powerful from that point. Basically 150 words to 250 words should include the purpose, method, results, major conclusion, and the implication in the abstract, right? Write it last. That means at the end, finalize the abstract. Because without writing the whole paper, or say without completing the study, we cannot write the abstract, right? For a research proposal, we can just indicate this and that and we'll do this and that. It is not an abstract, right? Write it last. And the next thing, abstract should be in passive voice, basically, but can use active voice statements also. But in academic tone, say, better to follow the passive version, voice, when writing the abstract. And abstract for a quantitative study, slightly different from qualitative study abstracts. And when we writing an abstract for a systematic literature review, is quite different, because at the end, in a systematic literature review, what we find is research gaps, and we provide strong future research directions. Gaps in the sense not empirical and contextual gaps, but theoretical gaps, language gaps, methodology gaps, sample gap, sampling gap, many things, different types of gaps. In my PhD, I found 16 gaps. 16 gaps. I presented 16 research gaps in my proposal to the board, and they instructed me select four gaps out of 16 gaps. So for the PhD, I selected 4 research gaps, but for other research gaps, I started conducting systematic literature reviews and conceptual papers. Now, at the moment, I have published 3 two in Scopus Index journals. So, having gaps is important. Not just writing something means a replication study. At the editorial desk, we will reject it. It is just repeating already known things, just repeating the existing body of knowledge in a different context, or using different words, or paraphrasing using ChatGPT or another AI tool. That's wrong. But the novelty is important. Abstract reflects the novelty of the paper, novelty of the study. That's why it is powerful, right? Okay, then come to the main body. Main body. At the end of the abstract, we have to put keywords as well. Introduction. We start from a general statement, general to specific approach follow. Start from background information, then coming to technical points, definitions, the problem, symptoms, consequences, and the specific focus of the study. For an example, if you want to talk about the diseases to strawberry, you have to start the background from the world's strawberry production, and how the strawberry production is important because of this disease, how it goes down, things like that. If I want to emphasize how organizational justice and its branches, including procedural justice, distributive justice, and all, contributed to social justice, I have to start my background from social justice parameters. And then, as a part of this big society and a corporate citizen, how organizational justice and HR mechanisms in corporate governance contribute. Then, what is wrong with that? What are the empirical evidence or the performance gap? Then, coming to technical part, definitions and all, and emphasize in the context, no research has been done so far. And also after the pandemic, after the economic crisis, so and so. And then available studies are Western studies, non-Western studies, emphasizing the global South behavior, things like that. The contextual gap, the empirical gap. Or there are some theories, but they are not adequately explaining the scenario. For my master's, when I was reading for the master at PIM, my research was on flex work, how flex workers manage the flex work and the work-life balance. So I found 3 major theories. The first is job border theory. Job border theory says there is a border, either physical border or a psychological border between work domain and the home domain. There is a particular border, either physical border or a psychological border, should have a border, right? But for flex workers, they enjoy the time flexibility, location flexibility, and operational flexibility. So they work from home, work from anywhere, flex work. So then what about this physical border? Completely, it is then a psychological border. So I argue, under the background of my research paper, for flex workers, this conventional definition of work-life balance is not adequate, and existing theories, including the job border theory, doesn't adequately explain work-life balance issue of flex workers. We have to redefine. That is the theoretical gap. So the existing theory doesn't adequately explain the scenario. So then under implications, I emphasize current research findings would validate some theories, would challenge some theories, validate or challenge. You see, under background, we have to emphasize such things. Then come to the problem statement. Then come to the problem statement, right? Then present research gaps, objectives, or if it is a qualitative study, research questions. No need to insert both actually, because research questions and research objectives replicate each other, no? Either research questions or research objectives. That is my opinion, and refer to Q1 high rank journals. Depending on the nature, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, we use one. Then significance of the study or the significance of the manuscript. In one paragraph, we have to emphasize why this is new, why this is not a replication study, who are the stakeholders of this study, who will get what benefits from this study, things like that. The theoretical significance and practical significance, methodological significance and policy significance, things like that. So we have to emphasize on the introduction, right? Background, gaps and the problem, objectives or questions, research questions, significance of the study, and the introduction. So when writing objectives, remember to align with problem statement, title, and hypothesis as well. Because under discussion of the study, discussion of the manuscript, we have to show that we achieve objectives. And in which way? In line with available research evidence. In line with available research evidence. Right? Then literature review. Right? Show the understanding, both descriptive and interpretative. What is descriptive? What you have taken from already known body of knowledge. Interpretative means blend your voice, your argument also. Writing literature doesn't mean that you take insight from somewhere else and properly cite, give the in-text reference and paraphrase to avoid the plagiarism, and that's all. No. The author or the researcher should blend his or her voice as well and emphasize on what has not been discussed in existing body of knowledge. That is the interpretative component. So in a good manuscript, we have to show the understanding on both descriptive element of literature and interpretative element of literature, right? Then identify further gaps and refine the introduction. Go back to the first part. When writing the literature, we have to align with that, refine it, right? And remember not to repeat the things available in introduction under literature, or avoid repeating the facts and details in literature under introduction, right? I have reviewed hundreds of articles where I see repetitions between introduction and literature. It won't happen. Need to avoid when writing manuscripts or journal of marginalized communities and social justice also. When reviewing articles, what we focus, the major point is whether this is repetitive. Repetitive. If it is repeating, that means author is not competent enough to focus on the argument. Avoid repetitions. Things in literature never use under introduction as well. Then under literature, builds the hypothesis and the conceptual framework. At the end of the literature, with the literature support, we can advance hypotheses and we can develop the conceptual framework, identifying independent, dependent variables, mediators and moderators, control variables, dimensions and indicators, standard measurement scales, things like that, right? Normally, what I do when writing a research paper, I finalize the things and started from literature actually. I finalized the thing and the draft, but started writing from literature part. That's easy. Because if I have strong literature, then halfway the journey is completed. Because for methodology part, for discussion part, for introduction part, need literature evidence no? Everywhere. More than half of the paper, we have to rely on literature to justify the things in the manuscript. You see, in a quantitative study, we use hypotheses, but in a qualitative study, the word we use propositions, not hypotheses. They are propositions. We are proposing some of the relationships between constructs, variables to be tested in the real world with empirical data. In a qualitative study, they are propositions, right? But in a quantitative study, we rely on empirical evidence and theoretical explanations and advanced hypotheses. The way you develop the hypothesis is not a matter, but the way you follow to test the hypothesis matters a lot in research. It should be a scientific testing. How you advance the hypothesis is not a big issue, but how you test it, the method you use to test the hypothesis should be something scientific. It matters a lot. When reviewing, uh, when reviewing articles, as reviewers, as editors of journals, what we focus on, the scientific methodology the author or the researcher follows when testing the hypothesis. When testing the hypothesis. So there are some articles I analyze and I review. The hypothesis is advanced based on theological ideas available in Bhagavad Gita or Tripitaka or Holy Quran or the Bible, something like that. It's a theological statement, but it doesn't matter. Can advance hypothesis based on some theological ideas. But the way the hypothesis is tested matters a lot in the article. It should be something scientific. It should be strong and argument. That's important, right? Then under literature review, we can identify scales, analysis techniques, and so forth. Scales means standard measurement scales. If we are conducting a quantitative study to assess the variable, to identify factors, something like that, we need standard measurement scales, already developed, validated scales in the domain. If not, we have to develop a scale. Measurement development is another type of study. Remember, developing a measurement scale is another type of study, right? Developing a measurement scale for a variable means not just writing some statements and questions and put into a table and a Word document and then you prepare a Google form and circulate the link among the sample. No, that's completely wrong. When developing a measurement scale or interview guide, there is a particular methodology to follow, right? Then we can write another article from that part. From my PhD, for an example, I would say, I constructed a new operational definition for cyberloafing for flex workers, bridging a gap in theory, gap in empirical evidence, right? Develop an operational definition for cyberloafing of flex workers. Cyberloafing of flex workers. That is what? Constructing a definition, operational definition. It follows a different methodology. And I develop an interview guide and validate it through a pilot test. Then I have to follow another methodology for that. They are some of the small studies within my major PhD study. Within the major study, there are some small studies that I follow. So each part I use as a paper to publish in reputed journals. And recently I conducted another content analysis of Anti-Corruption Act recently implemented in Sri Lanka, Anti-Corruption Act number 9 of 2023, with the support of Bribery Commission and Presidential Secretariat, and publish a paper in TPM, that is a Scopus Index journal relating to applied psychology, how Sri Lankan HR practices should be changed according to these new legislations. Right? You see, it is a content analysis. Then it follows a different methodology for a content analysis. So if it is experimental, you use a field study, field diary, ethnography, without talking to people, direct observations, and use data triangulation to ensure the validity of qualitative data. It follows a different methodology. Or say you collect thousands of windscreen literature from three-wheelers. You know what is windscreen literature? And enter it into a big Excel worksheet and analyze using thematic analysis. Say, it follows a different methodology. It follows a different methodology. So, under literature review, we identify these methodologies as well. That's important. Then the third element, methodology. You have to emphasize research design, whether this is cross descriptive or correlation or causal, quantitative or qualitative, with a justification. Then sampling and the sample, including sample size determination. If it is a non-population, you can go with the Morgan table or any other sample calculator. And what is the sampling technique? Whether it is simple random sampling or stratified random sampling. If it is a qualitative study, say purposive sampling or universal sampling, with justification, we have to explain. And the sampling plan, the framework, data collection methods with instrument scales, interview guides and all, and data analysis techniques and pilot survey results, if any, we have to report under methodology. Data analysis techniques we follow. Say if it is a quantitative study, descriptive study, statistics you use for what purpose? Inferential statistics you used for what purpose? If it is a mixed methodology research, then how these inferential statistics blend with qualitative analysis techniques, something like that. If you use structural equation modeling with AMOS or Smart PLS or R software, if it is panel data, then use Strata to analyze panel data. What package you use and the technique. And if it is a qualitative data, in vivo or Atlas TI, what is the package you use to analyze? Not just Excel. We can use advanced packages, right? Under methodology, we have to indicate. Normally, in my research for quantitative studies, I use SPSS, basically Strata for panel data, and Smart PLS, so AMOS for structural equation modeling, from my point. And for qualitative data, I use NVivo or Atlas TI. Atlas TI is very easy, but NVivo quite advanced, but wide recognition. Right? Journal will see what is the statistical tool or the analysis software that you use. Right? Whether it is a crack version. A lot of people use crack versions, but remember, results are not reliable in research. Better to use a paid version or subscribed version to analyze data. I have a lot of experience. People use crack versions or trial versions, but results are not reliable. If we do the same analysis again, we'll get something different table, different statistics and numbers. So it's not reliable. If you do the same analysis using advanced Excel or writing a macro, we'll get totally different answer, right? It won't happen, no, because the crack version or the trial version of some softwares are not reliable. Remember that, okay? And also under methodology, we have to mention the ethical clearance, how you ensure the uh, identity or say confidentiality of data, anonymity, informed consent of the respondent. Should you get the ethical clearance from ethics review committee of an institute? Before data collection, we have to get the ethical clearance. Journal asks you to uh, insert statements regarding the ethical clearance and the reference numbers of ethical clearance and the web link of ethical clearance grant. You see, in my articles, I write it under methodology, how I ensure the ethical clearance. Okay. Evidence for ethical approval as well, ethical concerns. Then results. Present findings, use tables and figures, professionally formatted layouts, no interpretation under results because we interpret this under discussion in line with existing literature. No interpretation, just report the findings. Under discussion, we can interpret the findings, can interpret the results under discussion. Compare with existing literature evidence and explain the results blending the voice of the author. Sometimes when we come to the interpretation, uh, say, no literature evidence so far we received or we obtained in the review. Then what to do? When writing the article, literature review doesn't provide adequate evidence to discuss current finding. That means the current finding is contradictory. Then we have to explain why. Is there any cultural difference, time difference, or contextual difference? Should explain reasons also. We'll provide an example for that. For a research study, when I was teaching in Jayawardenepura University, we conducted the big research considering a 5,000 sample, 5,000, right? 5,000 sample, 5,000 undergraduates actually, relating to academic stress of undergraduates. Literature support university undergraduates experience moderate level of academic stress during semesters. That is the evidence. But we collected data during the study leave period. Then it is high level of academic stress. Then we collected data during vacation. Low level of academic stress because during vacation, no academic work. But study leave means before the exam, high level of academic stress. What would be the discussion and the conclusion? We cannot say universally the academic stress of undergraduates is at moderate level. It depends on the data collection point of the semester, whether it is during the academic work, study leave, examination, or vacation. Things like that. First years experience high level of academic stress. Final years experience high level of academic stress. Second years and third years not. You see. And undergraduates in medical faculties and science faculties experience higher level of academic stress. But academics in social sciences, humanities, dental science, agriculture, and management studies not. You see. Then can we say a universal statement? University undergraduates experience Moderate level of academic stress cannot. So the evidence available in existing literature is not aligning with my current finding because I repeated data collection using the same measurement scale. It's like a longitudinal study, right? From the same sample. From the same sample, we collect data. Otherwise, we cannot compare from the same sample, same students, you see. So under discussion, then it's a big work, not just repeating what we have done and what is the finding and these are the evidence to support this and these are the evidence to oppose this. No. Explain blending with the voice. If the current finding is not in line with evidence, we have to explain the reasons. Then we can arrive at different conclusions. Under conclusion, summarize findings, answer research questions or objectives, explain what happened to hypotheses or propositions, whether they accept or reject, blend your voice. Remember, conclusion should be specific and findings based. It should not be in general voice. So there are some conclusions in research papers I have seen. Without doing the research, we can write that type of a conclusion because it is in general voice, not specific to this study, not findings based. Without doing a research, we can write that type of a conclusion. Completely wrong. If I am the reviewer, I reject that paper because conclusion is the final point at which we arrived at doing this type of a big work. Should be specific and findings based. Then, after the conclusion, give implications, theoretical implications, managerial implications, socio-cultural implications, policy implications, methodological implications. For this journal article, say Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice, other than theoretical and practical implications, we have to check whether these studies and papers provide a significant degree of socio-cultural and policy implications because it's all about social justice. Then social implications, cultural implications, and policy implications for policymakers at national level and institutional level. We have to check. Just writing an article for the journal is not guarantee the publication opportunity. These are essential elements, right? If the organizers of this journal invite me to review articles, probably I would check whether the article significantly provides social, cultural, and policy implications, other than theoretical and practical implications. To promote social justice, especially among marginalized communities, in a world where we value inclusion, diversity and inclusion, then we have to include everybody into this whole world. It's like a fruit salad, a blended world. Diversity makes the beauty, that is the philosophy. So, following such philosophies, whether this empirical paper or the systematic literature review significantly provides socio-cultural implications and policy implications. That's important. But say, if it is for a business organization or entrepreneurship or something like that, managerial implications. If it is in branding, marketing, or sales, financial analysis, then managerial implications. But writing articles for this type of a journal significantly require social, cultural, and policy implications. Right. Right. Then at the end of the manuscript, we have to acknowledge the limitations of the current study and suggest some future directions for future studies to manage or mitigate such limitations. That also important, right? The next point is follow the correct pattern of referencing, use APA style or journal specific guidelines. So this journal will follow APA method, which is commonly accepted one in the world, APA 7th now, and use tools Also ensure accuracy, align in-text citation with in-text references. For that, do a reference audit, right? Very carefully check whether all the in-text citations are included in the in-text reference list. Check that. Use tools, right? Mendeley or OneNote, or even the facility given in MS Word. MS Word, you can use, right? There is a question in the chat box when to use in text. In text means the citation in the body of the manuscript. What is in text? That is the entire reference list at the end of the manuscript. In text means you have to refer the source. There is a common way of in text citations. Refer to the APA guidelines online, right? Without knowing how to properly cite in the body of the article will be plagiarized. Every article will check for plagiarism and AI generated contents using Turnitin or some other advanced tool. So then if it is above 20%, probably at the editorial desk, the article will be rejected. If the plagiarism count is above 15% and the AI generated contents above 20%, probably reject the article. Because there are people today write articles using ChatGPT or any other software, but we can find it. Plagiarism. To avoid plagiarism, we have to paraphrase and acknowledge the original source using in-text citations. And the full reference of that in-text citation, we have to provide in the in-text reference list. Right. Footnotes and endnotes are not allowed in APA guidelines. Bibliography means the sources that you refer for the research, but not directly cited in text. But reference means you refer the source and also directly cited in text. That is the only difference between bibliography and the reference. I repeat the answer. Bibliography includes the sources that you refer, but not directly cited, quoted in text, the body of the article, but you refer. Say you read a book and get insights, but nothing you taken from that book to your study. You just clear up your awareness. That's it. So it is then under bibliography. Reference means you refer the source, take insights from that source and directly cited in text. That is reference. Footnotes and endnotes are not accepted under APA style. This journal also will follow APA, right? No need to write the manual bibliography. Use the Word. In Word, you can manage both. There is a ribbon called references, under which there are chunks for references and bibliographies, right? Can find the bibliography automatically. Today I will not touch that area. It is a different lecture. Then I have to conduct another session about managing Word for references and bibliographies. And there is another question. I skipped that. So please explain what procedure of conducting a systematic literature review. I need another 3 hours to explain that procedure, how to conduct a systematic literature review, right? It is not just downloading articles, read, highlight, and take inputs and all. No. From the very beginning of finalizing inclusion and exclusion criteria and search terms, there is a way You refer to Prisma 2020 guidelines. Online, you can search and download Prisma, PRISMA, Prisma 2020 guidelines, just to get a small understanding about systematic literature reviews, right? Please suggest the guideline and style of this journal. We'll upload to the web soon, author guidelines. Sir, should we mention the limitations of the research in journal writing? Yes, indeed. Limitations of the current study and directions for future research as well. Okay, then how to select a journal now? Probably you can select this journal for your article. But when selecting a journal, think of the scope of the journal. Now, for this journal, the editorial team will accept studies only within the scope of social justice and issues relating to marginalized communities. Not for the dominant society, but for marginalized societies. That is the major focus. The journal will be a strong voice for them, discussing issues and opportunities in marginalized communities and how to promote social justice through that. That is the scope. So this journal will not accept research articles relating to HR, finance, working capital, brand loyalty, employee satisfaction, employee motivation, nothing. It's out of the scope of the journal. It's out of the scope. The first thing when selecting the journal, read, go to the website of the journal, official website, read the journal scope, right? If the journal scope match with the article, then submit. Next one, indexing, because there are a lot of predatory journals. Now, this is not a predatory journal, right? But there are some predatory journals. I am also receiving 6 to 10 emails per day from some of the predatory journals, publish, deadline today, deadline tomorrow, right? Very favorable APC, just $30, just $50. We know they are predatory journals, not listed in anywhere. I suggested over the phone to the editorial team of this journal also to abstract this in SL JOL, Sri Lanka Journals Online, operated by National Science Foundation. Apply. Today, NIBM journal called me. I instructed them to again register under NSF, National Science Foundation, SL JOL. That's important. Otherwise, people will not publish and consider APC, article processing charge. But here, for this journal, no APC, it's free, open access and free to the best of my knowledge. The major point when selecting a journal, check the scope of the journal, right? Then follow the author guidelines given by the journal, proper formatting, font size, titles, line spacing, everything. And use a strong cover letter, use a strong title page, statements and declarations, right? Conflict of interest, data availability statement, acknowledgements, funding statement, things like that. There are several statements. And in peer review, we do initial screening first, that is at the editorial desk. Then send it to blind reviewers, basically to two reviewers, at least two reviewers, and revisions in several rounds, right? If it is under major corrections, at least we need three, four revisions, 3, 4 revision rounds. Not just one revision round and accept the article. No. Several revision rounds in peer review process, right? There are some common mistakes, as I said. Poor structure. Poor structure. From a thesis report, they copy and paste into a Word document and say it is the article. No, that's wrong. Read the article. Poor structure. Weak literature review, just copy and paste, highly plagiarize, or use AI softwares to generate the literature, highly plagiarize, right? And lack of clarity. There is no clear flow in the article, right? No clear flow in the article. Lack of clarity. You see, problems then. Common mistakes. The first is very important, poor article structure. Finally, what are the tips that we have to follow to successfully write, read again, refine, and submit to the journal for publication? Write regularly, frequently, not one article per year. Write regularly. I would say per year, normally I write approximately 10 to 15 articles because with my students, master students in Kalaniya, in Paradeniya, in Jayawardhanapura, here and there, in Colombo, IHRA, with students, I do and I supervise a lot of research studies. So from that, at least I write 10 articles. Go to my ResearchGate or Google Scholar or academia.edu, you will get more than 50, 60, more than 70, I believe, articles and books available. Why so? Write regularly with students. I can do that as I am a lecturer, but you cannot. At least 3 articles, 4 articles, write per year. Write regularly. Write regularly. And before writing, read. Without reading, nothing to write in research. There is a famous saying in research, without listening, nothing to talk, without reading, nothing to write. Read journals and identify the writing style, academic pattern, right? Seek feedback from peers. First, if better, present it in a conference and get comments and feedback. Let them to publish on the article, only the abstract in the conference proceedings and submit the article to a journal. That's what I do. Right? First, I forward the article to a conference, present in the audience, and get the comments. Accordingly, correct the article and email them. Okay, I withdraw the article and submit it to the journal. You better publish only the abstract in the proceeding. Author can do that. Be patient until the publication process finish. There are some journals. It takes more than 2 years to publish an article. Reject. One of my articles rejected 11 times, but I submitted it to the 12th journal, Scopus Index, accepted. Because from 11 journals, I received comments and refined the article. Now it is a stronger one. In the 12th journal, Q2 journal accepted. Be patient. That also important. Today you write article and tomorrow cannot publish. If it is a predatory journal, can do so. But if it is a quality journal, it takes time to review, correct the article, right? So we have to be patient as well. If abstract is published in conference proceedings, can you still submit for journal publication? Yes, can. That is just the abstract, not the full paper. In the conference, we can publish only the abstract. Remember, only the abstract, and can submit the full paper to a journal. Not under the same title. Get the comments from the conference audience, correct according to the comments if needed, and submit. But cannot publish the same full paper in a conference and in a journal. That is an academic misconduct. We can backlist that author from some databases. So there are some lecturers also who have been blacklisted from some Scopus and Emerald databases because of academic misconduct, plagiarism and all. Right. Okay. That's it from my end. And during the session, I answered the questions available in the chat box as well. And I can show you some of the examples for, say, statements and declarations or something like that. Let me share the screen. It's like this: statements and declarations. Here, ethical considerations, not applicable as this is a systematic literature review. Consent to participate, consent for publication, declaration of conflicting interest. This is the statement. The author declares no potential conflicts of interest with respect to the research, authorship, and publication of this. Funding statement, availability of data and materials. Here, the author received no financial support for the research, authorship, and publication of this article from funding agencies in the public, commercial, or non-profit sectors. Like that. So there are several statements and declarations. In a separate Word document, we have to submit. That is one. And the next thing, title page, right? Under title page, this is one of my examples, right? The manuscript title, then author information, name, affiliations, official address, and the residence address, email, telephone, and this OCHID also, right? In title page, separate title page. And also there are some journals requested from the authors, author bibliography, small write-up about the author, something like that. It depends on. So what we expect for this journal, Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice, will quickly upload soon to the web. What are the documents other than the main manuscript that we require from you, from the author? Separate title page, executive summary with the cover letter, things like that. But reviewers review only the main body, main manuscript. For editorial board, to do formattings and artwork and all, they need other details. And they keep it with them. Once we publish, another party can litigate your document. If you copy, another party can complain and litigate because it is an intellectual right of somebody else. That's why we have to properly cite the source using in-text citations and paraphrase to avoid plagiarism and all. Okay, that's all from my end. And thank you very much for inviting me to do the session. One of my major areas as an academic. And I believe the audience will publish in this journal in the future. The editorial board expect to publish this journal as a biannual journal, I believe, no? Biannual,
Yes, sir.
twice per year.
Yes.
For one issue, we can consider up to maximum 6 articles. Then per year can allow altogether 12 articles in 2 issues, right? To say the journal is strong, then the acceptance rate, we see rejection rate, right? From 100 articles, we reject 84, sorry, not 84, 88, and selected only 12 strong articles. No any personal contacts, right? No telephone calls, call to the chief editor, Machang will see, I submitted an article, please do something, nothing like that. To say a quality journal, it's only objective review process. That's it. No favorizations, nothing in academic communities. So there are friends of mine in international journal editorial boards, I know, but I never call them, email them. I submitted an article to this journal and that journal, Machang, please see, do something, never. It violates the academic integrity. It violates the academic integrity. So the Journal of Marginalized Communities and Social Justice also will follow the same because the editorial team expect to index it in upper databases like Scopus, Elsevier and all. For that, we have to keep on adhering to academic integrity standards as well. Okay. Thank you very much and good night. And I invite you all to write articles and submit to this journal as well and enjoy the progress of success in your academic life and also the career. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Yes, we extend our sincere appreciation to our distinguished resource person, Mr. Tarindu D. Veerasinghe, for delivering an insightful and highly valuable session on writing the research paper. Yes, it is also a personal privilege for me to acknowledge him as my former lecturer during my BSc studies, making his this session specially meaningful. So, thank you very much, sir. Yes, his guidance has greatly supported participants in understanding how to structure and present their research effectively. With your research effectively with clarity and academic rigor. Thank you very much. So we also thank all participants for your active engagement and commitment throughout the session. Your enthusiasm and willingness to learn are truly appreciated, and we look forward to your continued participation in the upcoming sessions of the JMCSJ lecture series. So, thank you very much for participation. Have a good day.